Invest in a fertilizer processing plant, and she joins us now in studio. Thank you so much, Sicily, for making time for us. Just run us through that. You told me it's not a government project as such.
That's true, actually. What we have is that yesterday we announced that Toyota Corporation had come through as a willing private investor to invest in a fertilizer processing plant in this country. It's a journey which was started in 2011 when the ministry first conducted a feasibility study which did prove that there was viability in terms of putting up this kind of investment.
Right.
Again, it's good to emphasize it's 100%, but government is concerned with the quality of investor who would come through, because it's really a very strategic place for us as a government and as a ministry.
Right. How then did you come up with, I mean, why did you decide on them? Were there any others who wanted to do the same thing?
That's true. Actually, there were 3 others who had come through. What we did is that once we conducted the feasibility study, which proved that it was viable to put up this investment in the country, we then went ahead and through an open tendering process, we invited private sector that would be interested in putting up the plant. We requested for an expression of interest way back in October last year, and we went through the process of evaluating who of the 3 that had expressed interest would be most suitable in terms of availing investment resources that were available as soon as the ones who would come in within timelines that we as government feel we need to have this coming through. Remember, again, I say 3 years we've been on this journey. So yes, the 2 went through the process of objective elimination. Yes.
How big is this project, and how soon are we expecting it to roll out?
Actually, starting yesterday, Toyota Corporation intends to conduct a feasibility study which would inform details like location of the plant. The plant is going to come through in 2 phases. The first phase is where they are going to, after completion of the study, they are going to put up a plant for granulation of NPK. NPK is just one of the types of fertilizers that we require. The next phase, which would come after 2016, comes through now to produce the other types of fertilizers, DAP, urea, if you like, along that planning. Of
course, like you say, the government's role here is just facilitating, really, but it's something you're also looking forward to. We know about the corruption cartels as far as fertilizer is concerned. And we had the PS was there before you, Romano Kiome, actually talked about this in several locations. We also know about the government project back in the 1970s, Kenren. Is there a way that is going to be guarded against this?
One of the undertakings that Toyota has given to the ministry is that in terms of the pricing, that we are going to have prices that are as competitive as what you'd get internationally, reaching other farmers, because what has happened in the past is that some of the importers have waited until the farmers were desperate for fertilizer and the prices then were pushed up. And we are saying the agreement that we have reached with Toyota is that this is not going to be entertained, and again, that is why the government is keeping a close eye in this project.
So at the end, you expect the cost to be a bit low than what is happening?
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, noting that this is one of the flagship projects under Vision 2030, the government, through my ministry, has been bulking, assisting to buy at least upwards of 30% of the requirements of fertilizer to attempt to suppress the prices. We have achieved this to a larger extent, but the coverage is still minimal because we are only able to deal with 30–40% of the total requirement. We do anticipate the prices will remain lower.
Yes. How does it settle with issues happening in the country? For example, we know now, but this is, of course, you're playing a facilitatory role, really, but the county governments have been given a nod to import fertilizers, and people can still import fertilizers. Where does this leave this plant?
I should have started by saying that actually fertilizer industry is liberalized. Anybody choosing to import would import. We only come to be affected or concerned in terms of the quality, but also the prices and the timing that the fertilizer reaches the farmer. And that is why the government came in with this bulking, to ensure that, one, the prices are suppressed beyond where they were some 3 years ago. We also make sure that the quality is right, and therefore anybody, although they are allowed or they can import if they choose to, we are in discussions with the governors through their council, and we are saying that there is merit in bulking and importing in bulk, because then we are able to suppress the prices. And I think there is agreement that we need to approach it, not individually, but collectively. Again, remember, we are serving the same growers.
Right. And of course, some we also know in places like Tanzania, where we have, this will be cheaper in terms of raw materials. And there's also talk of having a plant in East Africa doing the same thing going on currently. So how does all this again settle with this one?
Again, Toyota is not just looking for the Kenyan market. Initially, they're looking at the Kenyan market, but also serving the regional market and other export markets. And I think the reason government was involved through my ministry again is so that we don't have too many little private sector investors coming and chasing after the same market share. And that is why, again, we were involved. And we do think, because Toyota just indicate that they have secured some raw materials already in some West African countries, it should be competitive. It's still an open market, but again, it is a pricing that is going to determine whether or not there could be entry of other players. Also good to remind us that we already have blending facilities within the country already, but they are not able to fulfill the requirements. And so it's an opportunity that is still very viable and practical as far as we're concerned.
Right. Let's move on now to other issues because of the farmer, because at the end of the day, it's about the farmer. Since you came into the ministry, it's about a year now, almost going to a year. I mean, how is the ministry helping farmers to embrace new farming practices and opportunities in farming in terms of business?
Yeah, again, 8 months, doing the 9th month since we've been in the ministry. Not here yet, but close by. And then a couple of things are happening at the same time. We are currently focusing on a couple of strategic interventions that would impact on our food security situation. We are focusing on irrigation, both the mega irrigation project, which was launched. The project farm was launched by His Excellency the President only last month in Galana Kulalu area, and that starts with a model farm. In the meantime, we are still undertaking consultancies that are going to avail information about which crops are going to be planted on what hectareages. At the same time, we are out soliciting for interested growers, farmers, who would come once we have laid the infrastructure, which is going to be a government responsibility. Meantime, and in parallel to that, we are also carrying on execution of other irrigation projects across the country through the National Irrigation Board. That is one, and it's a major one because that's one of the threats of the government. We are also moving around with issues of mechanization. We have identified partnership with a couple of foreign countries where we are sorting out issues of bringing in machinery, farm machinery, because again, is a strategic area for us to be able to up the uptake of mechanization. We are still very low in terms of adoption of mechanization as a country.
Right. Most of these are things that are going on, processes. To be a bit more specific, let's look at some practices or opportunities that farmers have been trying to do. For example, the quail business, tilapia, jatropha, they took off. Farmers have tried to invest in that. Many have seen the investment, just burning. Is there any opportunity or areas you would advise now as the Ministry of Agriculture where farmers should specifically try and concentrate on?
Well, yeah, opportunities across the board are quite numerous. And we are trying to again focus the farmers to undertake that opportunity or those ventures that would yield economic returns within a sustained framework, as opposed to getting in and getting out as soon. And working with the county governments, again, you do recall crop production, for example, has since been devolved. So there has to be an interface between what we are doing in headquarters and what is happening on the ground. Extension services, again, have been devolved. But in the meantime, we are still handing over a couple of processes, including capacity building, and we are in constant discussions with the governors. Coming back to a specific area where we are focusing on would be the youth, women and youth. And if you were to single out the youth, the opportunities which exist across the board where it looks like it's a bit more exciting, and we are facilitating through sensitizing the youths, formation of the youth groups, but also availing infrastructure. I have in mind issues to do again with greenhouse farming for horticulture, issues to do with beekeeping, issues to do with the small livestock animals like the rabbits. Where it looks exciting, the youth want to belong there. And what we are doing from the ministry is facilitating their formation, capacity building, and startup to a point we are giving some grants where then they can get started. Yes.
Essential services, you've talked about them, are very important. Do you think we have enough? Some are still complaining, and now you're saying they are devolved. Is there a way that you can check and find out if it's happening in the counties?
It actually is happening, that I can confirm, because what has happened is that all the extension staff who belong to headquarters were controlled from Nairobi, now are actually being managed from the counties. And it then means because they are that much closer to the farmer, the leadership in the county is able to have a tab closer by. And we have detected there is a level of efficiency coming through on that. Yes.
Okay, finally, I know your department is agriculture really, but we have livestock and fisheries. We've seen the problems facing the Kenya Meat Commission, a possible shutdown there. What is the government strategy on KMC? It's not the first time this is happening. It's not the first time money has been pumped to try and revive KMC.
I think as a leadership of the ministry, we are clear that mistakes have happened in the past. We are guaranteeing Kenyans that we are in for a change now, and that we are determined again to revive the institutions which have been run down in the past. We are going to invest. We are going to have to change the management in a lot of the cases. We are going to reform these institutions, and it's all on course. KMC is one of them. They are a couple of the queue. Yeah.
Timeline?
Immediate. Immediate. We're actually beginning to work already with KMC. We're already working. We have a restructuring framework.
Yeah. Would you? Yeah. Now that you're working on that, would you like figure point and say where the problem is with KMC? Is it management? Is it what is the problem? Funding?
Is a
there a
combination.
Specific area you see?
To my understanding, is a combination of all these. Again, like I said, it's true of KMC and a few other parastatals within agriculture itself. Issue of resources, is issues of management, is issues of leadership, issues of governance. Very awake to the fact that all these are problems which can be fixed. We are determined as a leadership to tackle them.
Okay, you're saying it's immediate, so we'll be waiting and see what will happen. Sicily Kariuki, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Department of Agriculture, thank you so much for making time for us on